My name is Amanda Smith, and this is my final presentation for interpersonal communication. We often think of conflict as dangerous, insurmountable, the nemesis of a good relationship. In this presentation, we'll flip that concept on its head and discuss ways to step outside the conflict and use it for good. Starting off, let us begin with an age-old question. What is love, and how do we define a feeling? Over the decades, there have been several different viewpoints. In the late 70s, Lee posited that love has a single dimension, but presents with 6 different styles ranging from friendship to altruistic love. A decade later, Sternberg created the triangular model of love, where there are 3 dimensions to consider: passion, intimacy, and commitment. Various combinations of these dimensions result in the different types of love, but with consummate love having the presence of all 3. We can zoom into one of those dimensions, intimacy. By definition, intimacy refers to the feelings of closeness, connectedness, and bondedness in loving relationships. We should take a moment here to address that love and intimacy look different depending on the culture and the context. Although much of this discussion can be applied to other types of relationships, here we will primarily focus on love from a Western, heterosexual, dyadic point of view. With that said, theorists agree that intimacy has 4 parts: love and affection, personal validation, trust, and self-disclosure. All these features interact with one another. When people feel loved and liked, they become more willing to share their own feelings. When you're given approval, or personal validation, you feel safe and trust in your partner. You reveal more about yourself, and self-disclosure begets more self-disclosure. People tend to match the quality of self-disclosed information, and this has a positive correlation with feelings of bondedness. Take a look at some of these survey questions for measuring intimacy. Pause the video and think about your own relationships. You can start to see how a relationship can crack if one of these features is lacking. A relationship is the sum total of our communication, so if there's conflict we can't overcome, where's our communication system breaking down? We can look back at our transactional communication model, where participants A and B each send and receive messages that are influenced by their individual environment, their shared environment, and distorted by various types of noise. Let's turn our attention to Scheinkman and Fishbane's vulnerability cycle. You'll notice it shares similarities with our previous transactional model. Here, a message is first filtered through a person's vulnerabilities, then triggers survival strategies, which in turn send messages back. A vulnerability is, quote, a sensitivity that individuals bring from their past histories or current contexts in their lives to the intimacy of their relationships. They are triggered by the dynamics of the couple's relationship and produce intense reactivity and pain. You can think of this as baggage. These can be caused by past traumatic events, chronic patterns in their family, prior relationships, social context, couple's history, major stresses or crises in one of their lives, gender socialization, power inequity, and sociocultural traumas. The problem with vulnerabilities is that they trigger automatic reactions. The attacks don't even have to be real, just perceived. And since heightened emotion and neural connectivity have an inverse relationship, everything from here on out just gets confusing. So, conflict hits, what do? Fight, flight, or freeze, we all have reactive, automatic behaviors that take over. It's time to identify, challenge, and validate them together. Conflict is inherent to relationships, and it provides an opportunity to increase intimacy through self-disclosure, building trust, and providing validation. Like Campbell's helical model of relational cycles, disintegration can be rewarded with a new level of security. The prerequisite here is commitment. Notice this was the second dimension of love. It won't be easy addressing the problems, but it will be worth it. Remember that you are a team, not enemies. Commit to co-constructing a circular representation of the conflict. Instead of linear narratives of victim and villain, feel empowered to become co-authors of a new pattern. Pick a time when you're both ready, foster a safe environment, and recognize your emotions before they start flooding your brain. Emotions are contagious, so prioritize staying calm and controlling your tone of voice and nonverbal behaviors. Identifying your emotions is a skill, and it's okay to need practice. Ground yourself and give attention to each part of your body, your toes, up through your belly, lungs, to how tense your tongue is or how furrowed your forehead has gotten. Emotion charts are useful for putting a word to what you're feeling. Are you resentful, insecure, lonely, indignant? From there, try to identify where they really come from. What are your core needs? Why did your defenses get triggered? As suggested by Campbell and Gray, maybe you need to feel respected or cared for. Maybe you're afraid to feel abandoned or suffocated. The goal is to reframe the conflict event into a constructive narrative. Disinvite blame. Let go of your bias to feel something is all good or all bad, and instead focus on widening your perspective. Gain a better understanding of yourself, your baggage, your partner, and their baggage. In conflict, we have a tendency to objectify our partner. Instead, practice empathy and put yourself in their shoes. Our history, our needs, and our fears contribute to our survival beliefs, which build into our reactive stories or the narratives that we tell ourselves to justify our reactive behaviors. Maybe we believe our anger is dangerous, so we withdraw and hide out. Maybe we believe we are a failure, so we attack and blame our partner to change that reality. Or maybe we think emotions are a sign of weakness, so we rationalize and intellectualize fight. Regardless which flavors we've developed, it's time to identify them. We're working to contextualize and externalize conflict. Now is the time to catch miscommunications, convey relational security, and provide validation to your partner. As you're going through mapping your conflict, remember to identify virtuous cycles too, reinforcing positive neural connections rather than negative ones. Be sure to stop rumination patterns when you notice them building. Sometimes it's hard to choose the right way to talk about these sensitive topics. To give you some ideas, it is useful to use assertive message formats, or its modified safety statement from Campbell and Gray. Remember to use I and we language. You're embarking on a trek that will be challenging. Before starting the conversation, you should have a pause agreement. What will the signal be? How long will it last? Call for a pause as soon as you detect reactivity, respect the pause, and don't use that as an avoidance mechanism. During a pause, before a conversation, or as part of your regular routine, mindfulness will help you stay calm and constructive. Some ideas include breathing exercises, body awareness movement like stretching or yoga, exercise like running or dancing, getting outside, and journaling. In conclusion, we can define love by its parts: passion, commitment, and, as dubbed by Hook, Gerstein, Detterich, and Gridley's 2003 paper, the crux of relationships, intimacy, with its features of affection, trust, personal validation, and self-disclosure. Inextricably, the conflict that damages intimacy is also what can deepen it. If we can step out of our reactive vulnerability cycle, analyze our emotions, triggers, and communicate our underlying needs, we can lay the groundwork for a mindful, healing, and fulfilling relationship. Thank you for your time.